All right. Hello, Dr. Nance. Hope you're doing well. Thank you again for the constructive feedback for my other video journal entries and for my assignments. I really appreciate it. It helps me feel like it's a two-way learning and that it's a conversation. So I'm very grateful for that. But let's get to my reflection on Module 3, the principal as an instructional leader. Boy, let me tell you, if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, principals need to be instructional leaders without explaining what that actually means, I have a really, really fat retirement account right now. But this module gave me some research-based insights into what effective instructional leadership looks like. So one of the biggest key takeaways for me was how the role of principals has evolved. Historically, principals were more like building managers. Now, they are expected to drive curriculum, instruction, and assessment. The Wallace Foundation research and our readings emphasize that principals who are truly engaged in instructional leadership see higher student achievement. That makes sense to me. Another key point was the teaching-learning cycle, planning, instruction, assessment, and reflection. It sounds simple, but let's be real, many schools struggle with closing that loop. The best principals ensure that student data isn't just collected, but actually used to form instruction. I also found that the comparison between traditional leadership models and the next education workforce approach very interesting. The idea that schools could move toward a shared leadership model where instructional coaches, specialists, and teacher leaders collaborate. It makes a lot of sense. One person can't do it all. It truly does take a village. But I think it's also very important that we recognize that the principal as an instructional leader, but also a person who sets the vision and who also helps drive the ship towards completing the mission, which is to have successful students who feel like they're learning and parents who are agreeable to the ideas of the school, the vision set by the principal. So in my own experience, I think that the best school leaders that I ever worked for, they weren't people who just showed up at my door if something was wrong. I mean, I've had a couple principals who the only time they ever spoke to you was when you screwed up. Early in my career, that seemed to be like they were in my doorway a lot more often than I'd like. But the best principals I ever had were facilitators of learning, and I'm not just talking about student learning, I'm talking about teacher learning too. This is a lifelong learning endeavor. Anybody who's entering this career field, I would advise them that if you think you're going to just stop learning or that you've arrived, I have news for you, like that this is not the career field for you. You must continue to evolve and grow, and that growth mindset is critical, especially for instructional leaders. I loved my principals that weren't afraid to jump into the classroom and ask students what they were learning and let them teach them something. I liked principals who let me be a part of the decision-making process. I really enjoyed it when the data wasn't just interpreted for me, it was given to me and I was guided through it with facilitated thought-provoking questions, and it was a shared experience. But I've also really appreciated my principals too who believe the buck stops with them, that they are not middle managers, that they are not just, instruments of the district. I think that they are the ones who truly led and led well and mentored, shared beliefs. I think more than just in a collegial way. I think that it's a covenant, as I've stated before. The covenant exists between the teacher and the student, but I think that the instructional leader and the teacher must have that same covenant, that we implicitly trust them to set the vision, to drive the ship, and to clear the path for us to do our job, which is one job, which is teach. The module really reinforced my belief that principals must be leaders of learning, not just managers of logistics. So my final thought is this. Instructional leadership is not about power, it's about partnership. It's about being an advocate for teachers and students, and if more principals took this approach, I truly believe that we'd see a transformation in education. Thank you for listening, and I'm very excited to hear your feedback, read your feedback, and I hope that you have a wonderful week, sir. Thank you.